our webcam for a short while, so I can basically we can see each other. I mean, later on, after that, maybe if you do not want to use the webcam, it's okay. Right. So I'll start off. Right. Can you see me? Can you guys see me?
Can.
Yeah. Right. So do you have any webcam? Maybe you can switch on for a while. Just introduce ourselves. Hi, Noel. Hello. Hi. Nice to meet you. Nice to meet you. Hello, Kelvin. Nice to meet you as well. All right. So first time I actually teaching you guys, yeah. So what's gonna happen this morning is that I'm going to spend some time to basically introduce this course to you guys. I think we have one more person that's not joined in yet. Yeah, your classmate, Sarah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we invited him, and I see that he's accepted, but I don't think he's in this morning. Right. So I'll spend some time to basically give you a head up on the on this course. Okay. Right. What is content of this course? What is it all about? What is expected of you, and so on and so on. And a lot of this information actually gather from your syllabus and also from B. Yeah? From B, if you notice, can be seen course planner can be seen from the internet on internet, right? Near to your timetable, right? So, but I'll still explain to you, okay? So that what's the importance of these two course files? Yeah. All right. So there will be time when I'm providing lecture and selected times when I'm explaining either tutorial or practical. Right. Hello, Vince Ferrer.
Hello.
Hi. Good morning. Right. So during those times, I will record this meet. Okay, so that you can go back and review back what was discussed during the session. Right. So now I want to go ahead and basically introduce this course to you guys. Yeah. So I'm going to go and present screen. For now, I'm going to switch off my webcam first. Just worried that's going to take up on the bandwidth. Yeah. Right. So on screen. Right, so I think you can see my screen now. Right. Right, so I'll just introduce myself. That's my name. Right, from Department of Computing Information Technology. Obviously, during MCO, my office room will be Google Classroom. So typically, if we're in college, you guys can make appointment actually to see me during consultation hours or office hours when I'm free. So nothing changed. If you guys wanted to meet with me, right? Of course, our office will be the Google Classroom or Google Meet. Yeah. Okay. We're not going to be able to be face to face. Yeah, meeting each other. But if you require any meet, yeah, we're going to be using Google Meet. Okay. Just let me know beforehand, and we can find suitable time. Right. So I see that you guys already registered with the Google Classroom for this course, yeah? Right, so just a brief introduction to this course. Our course code is VAIT 2004. Course title, Fundamentals of Computer Networks. Right, our contact hours, that means teaching time, will be divided into three, lecture, tutorial, and practical. Okay, lecture as usual, early morning, Wednesday, 9:30 to 11:30. That will be 2 hours, and that is immediately followed by tutorial. Tutorial is only 1 hour per week, so it's very good that before the tutorial, all of us already prepared our answers, so the discussion will go without a hitch, yeah. So it's only 1 hour, yeah, per week. So immediately after lecture, 11:30 to 12:30 p.m. Right? And the third one we'll have on Friday, again very early, 9:30 to 11:30. Also 2 hours will be our practical. We'll talk about practical a bit more later, yeah. Right. So what's this course about? Right. So this course, from the title, you can see that it's fundamentals. Yeah, fundamentals means it's an introduction to the world of networking. So this course will provide you networking concepts and technologies. So it's okay if you have um, not have any background or not have any knowledge about networking before this course, because this course is designed to introduce all these concepts and technologies to you, right? So in this course, you will be shown network models, protocols, and Ethernet technology. Don't worry if this all this terminology sounds foreign to you. Yeah, we will go through this during the course of the semester. Right. So all these are all fundamental concepts. So that means if you want to know more about networking, right, and we know that networking is very important, right? The whole world, due to the pandemic, is able still to function because of networks. So if you want to go inside networking, right, you might even consider networking as one of the career later on that you want to go in if you happen to like networking very much. Okay, right. So all this will be your introduction to this networking world, right? Right. So what are the learning outcomes? Okay, learning outcomes means if you go through this course, what is expected of you to have learned, right? So we have three course learning outcomes here. You can see CLO1, CLO2, and CLO3, right? So the first one, we're going to look at, this is basically the fundamentals of networks, yeah? Something called the OSI model. Okay, these are the reference model. We'll talk more about this in the coming chapters. And there are 7 layers of the OSI models, and you are expected to know about all these 7 layers. So we'll go through the 7 layers at the beginning, a gentle introduction, and then all the chapters within this course, basically talking about the 7 layers in more detail, right? And the implemented protocol model out of this OSI reference model is the Tcpip protocols. Okay, the Tcpip protocols very important because this is the foundation of our internet. You know, the whole internet that is used globally, okay, is based on these Tcpip protocols, which in turn is based on this reference model, OSI model, right? So we're going to look at those and also some examples of very popular or well-known TCP/IP based applications that's network capable and base their network capability on the TCP/IP protocols. Okay, so that is our course learning outcome for the first one, which we will, by the end of this course, you will know about these things, right? The second course learning outcome that you will need to know after you end this course, yeah, is you'll be able to complete some tasks related to network configuration. What does it mean, network configuration? That means this course is focused more on local area network. And at the end of this course, you will know how to design and create local area networks, right? So that means part of the task that you do is to be able to do some network configuration. You will be given scenarios. For example, okay, this company, right, needs this and this and this and this specification for their network. And you will come in and you will look at the specification and you will design and create this network, right? Right. So that's course learning outcomes. right? So very exciting about this one also, yeah, right? So the third is very related to that, right? Configure a network based on a given network requirement, right? So very similar to number two, okay? So these two usually the theory part, or you will learn from the lectures that we have, and also the tutorial, but the practical part, yeah, will of course will be coming out from your practical session, right? So we'll be using later on. I'll talk about the simulator that we'll be using to basically work out this CLO2 and 3. Right, so a little bit brief outline of our syllabus, what we are going to look at. So just now I was talking about OSI model. OSI model was created as a reference model. That means if anybody wants to create, okay, a usable network, they will base on this reference model, sort of like a blueprint, yeah, architectural blueprint, right? So as it is, we see that the internet that we have right now actually is based on the OSI model. We call that model we have that's working right now the Tcpip model, right? So a lot of this, the content of this syllabus for this course is taken from these two, right? The OSI model and the Tcpip model. So you can see we start off with introduction to network. Hopefully after this brief introduction, we go straight to chapter 1, yeah, introduction to network, followed by network protocols and communication. Then we look at the physical layer, right? Physical layer, then data link layer, and then the Ethernet. So these two, when implemented, is basically using the Ethernet protocols. So we're gonna, very important for local area network. So we're gonna look at Ethernet on its own chapter. After that, we're gonna look at the before we touch on network layer, we're gonna look at IP addressing. You know, we are using IP address, yeah, to for our machines to be able to talk to each other remotely, yeah, across the network. So we're going to look at IP addressing in detail. And then this is the part where you need to know how to subnet. Subnetting means you have a LAN and you want to partition the LAN into multiple segments, and we call that subnetting. So the IP address has to be divided as well, so we call it subnetting IP networks, right? Right. So after we look at that, there are two ways of subnetting, so we'll talk about that later on. That means after that we'll be looking at network layer, right? And then transport layer, and then application layer. Application layer here is based on the TCP/IP model, where the OSI model three layers, the top three layers, application, presentation, session, is actually combined. Okay, in the practical world, when we're actually using TCP/IP model, we combine these three layers into one application layer, and we'll touch on that in the last chapter, right? Then after application layer, of course, here you will find users who wants to use the network, yeah, right? So users who want to use the network will interact with the application. This application are network capable, which means it will be able to connect to the network. So the communication between application to another application goes through these layers. We'll talk more about that, yeah. Right. Our main reference is basically the Networking Academy, or NetAcad. You can find the URL you can see here. You can click on it, or you can type it in your browser, right? It's called the Cisco Networking Academy. Why? Because our syllabus is based off the Cisco Networking Academy syllabus, right? Cisco Networking Academy, I'll talk about it more later, but it is a very highly sought after certificates for people who wants to embark in networking career. Now, even if you don't want to be a network guy, you want to be a developer, develop software, but with this extra certification, right? It doesn't hurt your CV. It will actually enhance it, right? I can say that last time when I brought some of the students going to Sabernet, yeah, the boss in Sabernet, Sabernet, yeah, they are located in Likas. They actually look highly upon students who have uh, some form of Cisco Networking Academy certificate. Now, our TAUC, as you know, we normally design our syllabus, yeah, so that is in line with the industry. So industry actually love the Cisco networking certificate. That's why we actually combine our syllabus with the Cisco. So that's why when we say main reference means once you listen to my lecture, if you want to dig deeper and also do some kind of exercises and also get some resource, then you will need this Cisco Networking Academy resource. Okay, this is your main resource. We don't use any textbooks in this course. Okay, you basically Cisco Networking Academy has interactive sort of information where our lecture is actually coming from. So in order to access this, I will show you later how you can actually create a profile within this Cisco Networking Academy. Okay, that means once you are successfully registered with NetAcad, you'll be able to log in and utilize all the resources there. Okay, I'll talk more about that later on. Right, so we look at assessment structure. So how are you going to be assessed within this course? Right, there are three types of assessment for the coursework. Okay, we have an e-test. The coverage is between chapter 1 to 5. You can think of this as your midterm test. So chapters from the introduction chapters to the Ethernet chapters. And this will assess the course learning outcome of number 1. Remember the course learning outcome earlier on? Don't worry, I have shared with you the course syllabus. Within the course syllabus, you can see all those information I gave to you. For example, CO1, 2, 3, course learning outcome. So feel free to download that and refer to it at any time, yeah? Right? So we will allocate a special time, and this coming from our course coordinator in main campus KL. We would like to synchronize all the branches and also the main campus students to actually sit for the e-test together at the same time. Of course, it's a remote online, right? But the time will be synchronized, right? So the e-test itself will will take up 30% of your coursework mark, right? And then we have assignment. Yeah, assignment, individual assignment. This satisfies COO2, right? And it will be given in the coming 1 or 2 weeks. Yeah, our course coordinator will announce to us and will provide us the assignment, and I will announce it to you and provide to you as soon as I get it, right? So submission for assignment will be in week 11, right? And it's also taking up 30% of your coursework marks, right? Okay, so we have practical every week. During the practical, you will learn how to use a software called Packet Tracer. I'll show you also later this Packet Tracer software. That will lead you to do this third assessment, which is an e-practical assessment, or we call it skill-based assessment, ESBA. Right? That will be conducted in week 13. Again, we'll be trying to synchronize everyone to do at the same time. And that takes up 40% of your coursework marks. So you can see sum total of this is about 100%. So you can see the ratio for each, right? So my advice or tips is that during these 14 weeks, semester. Okay, we can try our very best to actually score by focusing. Okay, for the e-test, we will focus on that, and we'll focus our study on the e-test, the assignment. Assignment, of course, although you're doing it, you can ask for guidance from me during when you're doing your assignment, right? And then we'll have a revision, of course, for the ESBA. 1 week before the ESBA, we'll do maybe we'll allocate some time for the revision to work out how to actually do the SBA. All right. Right. So final e-assessment will be all the chapters 1 to 10. Final e-assessment is your FOA, final online assessment, right? And for the coursework part, to pass the coursework, thereby making you eligible to sit for the final assessment, you must achieve 50% to pass, right? And the final e-assessment as well, the FOA, you must reach 50% to pass, right? But for the overall passing for the coursework, where we actually add your coursework marks with your exam marks to get your final grade, for the course, you, as long as you reach 40%, you can the marks can be considered to add, so between your final online assessment with your coursework assessment, right? So the higher your coursework marks, the better your marks will be also, right? So we are not just focused on the final assessment, we also look at the coursework marks. So that means to get a very good mark, you have to be consistent. Your coursework mark must be high, and then you must try to score your final coursework mark as well. Right? So attendance, I will take attendance. Of course, I will update on the intranet, right? Okay, so we hope that there will not be a problem with attendance, so that we don't have to be looking at all these procedures where you have to bar students. Surprisingly, there are students who, the attendance are very, very bad, especially I think in Sabah campus is still okay, but in the main campus there are students you hardly see them. So the thing is, because their attendance so bad, they are actually barred from taking the final exam, right? Right, so tutorial session is only 1 hour, so there's very little time there. So when you're given time to do your tutorial questions, please prepare your tutorial answer, right? So that when we do tutorials, then we can go straight to discussion, right? Our practical session is 2 hours, so we'll try to complete the practical exercise, right? So what I normally will do is that I will guide you to the practical, what you need to do, okay, and then I will give some information about the practical, right? And then after that, I will let you to do on your own, okay? And of course, I will monitor, and if you have any question during the practical, or when you're stuck on something, you can always ask me. Right, so I always tell my students, don't expect to be in this position, please, because if you do it correctly during the whole semester, you will not be in this position. What position is this? The position where you are failing your coursework, thereby you need to make good in order to give you a final chance to pass your coursework, right? So the procedure for make good is actually this given by the faculty. The faculty has said that only if the student coursework marks actually reach 40, between this range 40 to 49, okay, then the student is eligible to do make good, right? But again, hopefully under my guidance, you guys will not be in this position where you have to do the make good. That means straight away pass your coursework, yeah. Hopefully with good grade or good mark. Just good and high marks in coursework, okay, will alleviate the pressure from you to do the final exam, right? Also push your final exam, your final grade higher, because remember we're gonna add coursework to. I think this is 50-50, yeah. Coursework to your exam marks. The ratio is 50-50, yeah, not mistaken.
Sir.
Yes.
So if below 40,
If below 40, then usually there's no consideration, then that becomes discretion already.
oh,
But so strictly speaking, in main campus, because you know for this course they have about 500 over students in main campus, so they really become very strict because it's very difficult to manage so many students who go below 40 to give make good, to arrange for make good, because again this is happening towards the end of the semester where it gets very busy. So they really impose this 40, the range of 40 to 49. All right. So
okay.
for branches where there are smaller numbers of students, it depends on the discretion of the lecturer. Lecturer usually kasihan the student and still try to to help them But from my opinion, okay, I would like my students to not be in that kind of position where they have to make good. Yeah, because the coursework was designed in such a way that you should not be failing that. Okay, the test, okay, you can see the basically the coverage is chapter 1 to 5, so smaller coverage. So the e-test usually is not as difficult as a final exam. So usually students should be able to get marks from there. And then the assignment, as long as student continue doing it, okay, and if stuck, cannot be really stuck, because can ask for guidance from the lecturer. So as long as student is working on the assignment, right, they should get marks from there as well. And if the students been doing practical, the e-practical assessment, because it's just something very similar to the practical they've been doing, should not pose a problem as well. Right? So it's all on the honors, it's all the students to actually follow the course plan, to follow what's going on within the semester. Okay, that's why I always tell my students, if you feel like you are left behind, that means you can't catch up. Please inform the lecturer. At least I tell my student that please inform me, so that we can rectify it and do not wait until the end of the semester where everything suddenly just too much, yeah. Right? So the moment you feel like, okay, I'm having some problems with the material or the theory or the practical or whatever, inform the lecturer, so the lecturer can help. That's what the lecturer is there for, to help out the student and feel like it's getting left behind. Because if you feel left behind and then you still go on and on and on without rectifying that, the whole thing becomes too much. Because week after week, new topics will be added. Right? A lot of students find themselves cannot cope because of this. Because when they find that they are having problems, they do not voice out to the lecturer. The lecturer cannot help if the lecturer doesn't know. Right? So I hope that you guys will be more forthright with me. If you find yourself having problems, inform me so we can do something about it. Right? And if we have this plan that every week we work towards a goal, right, for the whole week, and then for the whole semester, I'm pretty sure we can overcome anything, right? Okay, so what you're looking on the screen is one example of students going for the Cisco Networking Academies competition. This is a Malaysia-wide competition, and after Malaysia, they will do Asia Pacific and so on. And students who win the Asia Pacific, I think, or even the Malaysian one, are usually given a chance. This is prior to the COVID-19. given a chance to actually go to Cisco headquarters in the United States, if you give you a chance, the Asia Pacific, I think. So our students have been doing well, okay, because our lecturer actually very well qualified to teach the Cisco networking courses. So been helping out the students. Student also very interested in networks, and they actually get very good. So a lot of, you can see throughout the years, a lot of times we are fighting against other institutions, other university, other colleges. Time to time, when the competition being held, usually always either get champion or second, first, second, third, first, second, third only. All right, always very good. Right, so just to give you the pedigree of our students in TAUC. So hopefully you guys will also be doing excellently in the networking academy. Well, so what's this? Cisco Networking Academy. So in order for you to access the Cisco NetAcad website, you are given a SID token. A SID token basically just a series of characters, numbers that's generated by me, and I provide to you. All right, so you can self-enroll. Self-enroll, when you self-enroll into it, you can then use the resources, right? The resources. Now, they for every chapter, there are chapter exam that you can take online. Now, this does not give you any marks for the coursework, right? But I always tell my students to do it, because from there they can do revision. In order to answer this question, they must know, right? So that acts as a revision for the chapter for the students. Very good, right? And the format of the question is MCQ, that is multiple choice questions. So ABC, right? So it's not that hard, and also it's open book, right? So we normally ask the students to do it so that the student gets very good with the theory or application of the network, right? At the end of the semester, there are two things the student will do, that is the course feedback and the final exam, right? So student usually is at the end of the semester asked to do the course feedback first, and then after that do the final exam. Usually we give the students 3 tries. Okay. Now, once you pass the final exam, again there is no marks towards our coursework, but it is towards getting a certificate. Okay. If you pass the final exam, you'll get a certificate of completion. This certificate of completion is basically provided by Cisco, right? Cisco, and that certificate is a very good addition to your CV. So when you go to apply for job later on, you can include the cert coming from Cisco. You will find that in the industry, the Cisco cert is actually very, very well looked upon, okay, by employers. Because it tells them that you know networking, and it comes from Cisco. Cisco is one of the largest provider of networking hardware and solution, right, to industry. Right, so I think it's 70 or 75% the mark. If you get above that, you'll get another letter. It's a letter of merit, okay, also from Cisco. Okay. Now I think you are provided three times to improve. So let's say you do the final exam and you didn't do well, and then you pass but you didn't do well. You want to try again to get a better mark, right? You're allowed to do that, I think, up to 3 times. Okay. Right. So in our bachelor degree, you have 3 networking subjects. The first one is this FCN. You'll find later you take computer networks, and finally the advanced computer networks. right? Why are you taking so many network? Because we have worked out with the Cisco, right? That if the student take these three courses, one after another, and pass them, after you get your bachelor, okay, after you pass the third one, you can actually go to sit for this CCNA, Cisco Certified Network Associate. This is very, very highly looked upon by the industry, as I say. So normally, if you want to sit for this, you have to go. You have to pay a lot of money. A lot of money to Cisco trainers, Cisco training facility, to basically to study what you're studying with us, and get the CCNA, Cisco Certified Network Associate certificate, right? But you are doing this, like for example, 2-in-1. While you're doing networking course in your bachelor, you're actually also learning about the CCNA syllabus. So by the time you finish all the networking courses in your bachelor, you are actually qualified to straight away go and sit for the CCNA cert. So some students actually take this opportunity. They want to get the cert. After the bachelor, they go and sit for the CCNA and get the certification. All right? But it's an option to you, right? Option, not necessarily you have to do. Right? So this is progression for Cisco Networking Academy. Right? So you can see there the CCNA, right? Okay, and I think the highest is CCNP. CCNP is higher, even higher. Okay. Right, so if you type www.netacad.com, you'll find this actually, you'll find this website. And right, so practical, actually we don't have practical component, we have coursework, but inside coursework, we have practical. Okay, if that makes sense to you, right? So packet tracer will not be assessed during final exam. That means you will not be assessed for any practical knowledge during final exam. Okay, we use the ESBA to test or to assess you for your practical knowledge. But in the final exam, everything is theory based already. Right, so we are using Packet Tracer version 7.3.1. Once you log in to NetAcad, I'll guide you to how to log in later. You'll be able to access the resources there, and you will be able to download this software from Cisco Packet Tracer. Okay, we need to download this for all our practical need. We'll be using this Cisco Packet Tracer network simulator. Right, right. So one thing I want to show is this one. I had the slide earlier on. Okay, so this is your token. How to utilize the token? Can you write down first? Let me know if you finished writing down your token. Can you see it? Is it clear?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah. So be very careful with the uppercase, lowercase. It actually matters to the Cisco platform, right? You guys finish copy? Or maybe I just copy. Yeah, just copy it. I don't know whether I can copy it into the finish. Yeah.
Yes.
Finish copy. All right. Okay. So now go to. Just hide this. Go to netacad.com. Right. Type the URL www.netacad.com. Are you guys there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So under login, can you see that highlighted option, redeem seed token?
Oh.
You click on that, yeah. So before you proceed, right? Okay, of course you say I am new. Your bachelor, right? No more email address. Okay. So, but the Cisco, even after you finish your bachelor degree, you can keep on, right? You can keep on having the profile from the NetAcad. So that means you can continue using NetAcad to improve on your um, professional development, right? Because they not only they have networking, they also have security, they have cyber security and so on, so on. Maybe you want to keep on using the NetAcad profile. So if you use the student email, once you finish your bachelor, you don't have access to it anymore. So that's why normally we advise students to use their own personal email address to register, right? So of course, please use the email address that you normally use so that you keep checking, sometimes NetAcad will send you some information personal to you. So make sure you use your personal email address that is the one that you are most used, okay? Right, so I'm new to Networking Academy. Please fill in your proper first name and last name because they will be using that later on when they want to issue certificate to you, right? They will be using that name. And of course, you want a formal name, your real formal name, because the certificate, you can use it in your CV. I've had students put very, very funny name, nickname there, and obviously it's not suitable. You think about this NetAcad as a professional, profile. Okay. Then the SIP token I gave to you, please insert in here, SIP token, right? Can you complete that? I give you about 5 minutes to complete your. They will basically, after you finish this part, they will send you an email to the email address that you use, right? So after that, you click on the link and you should be able to go in, right? And once you manage to go in, right? So let me just once you manage the registration already, you click from your email address, your email link. They give you the link. Then you will be able to log in, right? Log in into, and you will have your own profile, and you will be registered to this BAIT fundamentals. Let me just launch the course. Once you're successful, let me know. Give you 5 minutes. 5 minutes to do it. Okay, I'll give you 5 minutes to do it. After that, we'll talk about after you success. If you're not successfully log in, let me know. Okay, what's the problem? What's the what? Then we'll solve it.
Sir, should I wait for the activation link?
Yeah, refresh your email. It shouldn't take very long, but email there's a slight delay, right? But keep refreshing it, see whether you get the link or not.
Oh. So
Yeah.
if I use my tuck email, will there be a problem?
Use what? What document?
My Tarok email.
No problem. But like I said before, when you finish your bachelor degree, then you lose access to your email address, kan?
Oh.
Yeah. Then you have problems accessing your NetAcad profile already.
Oh.
Yeah, that's why we advise students to use their own personal email, so that even after bachelor is completed, they still have access, right, to the NetAcad, because students may want to continue afterwards their own professional development. They still want to continue using NetAcad because the NetAcad has a lot of resource. Yeah, there's a lot of resource for the students. And also for this, actually, NetAcad is not only for students, actually for professional in the industry already. You know, they can use the NetAcad because it's a networking academy. They can use it to do other courses or to learn other things, right? Where they want to advance their professional status, they want to get more professional certificates. You know, as you know, in the industry, professional certificate is also looked upon by employers highly, especially this one from Cisco. Cisco is one of those networking company that the industry make full use of. They really love it. In Malaysia, you either have right now the new entry is from Huawei. Now Huawei, basically when they're providing solution, you will notice that their hardware, okay, their routers and all these things, actually when you want to configure their routers, if you have learned how to configure Cisco routers, actually Huawei routers, the commands inside, the configuration commands, basically, as you know, China, very similar to Cisco. Basically, they are not going to say copy, but they come up with the very similar commands. But the industry leader, to be honest, is still Cisco, in my opinion. All right. So some people go for Cisco, some people go for Huawei. So it depends if you're in the industry of networking industry, you'll find that some companies use Cisco solutions, some companies use Huawei solution, but a lot of companies, big companies, actually trust Cisco, so they usually go for Cisco. Okay, so I know that some government agency, if they want to do their networking, they give out, for example, tenders, tenders for companies to come in and actually configure their networks. One of the requirement, usually if they're going for Cisco hardware, depending on the tender, is the company must have an individual inside them, a network engineer that has Cisco certification, for example. Then that company can go for the tender and provide a solution for example, government or large enterprises. You know, they need someone to design, configure, and lay out the network architecture and also infrastructure. Yeah. Right. So the networking NetAcad profile, actually it will be useful to you beyond his bachelor degree. Registered already, Farah? Can you log in? Can you click that after you click activation? Can you log in? When you guys log in, you should be able to see something like this. If I say view as students, it means you'll be able to see something like this. Can you confirm with me, all of you? Farah as well. Are you able to see?
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. So if you're able to see, you can see course content here. Introduction to network course. you make, when I say the reference earlier on, right? Wait for it to load. You will see that you have this, right? Why is it small? Let me just click. If I click, right? So okay, so if you just click on it, it will open a new tab. You'll see that this is what I meant by the reference, main reference. For example, okay, the chapter 1 is basically come from here. So if you click on any of this, right, so you can start to read, right? Start to read. These are the notes. Take this as your textbooks, right? You can see here. And one thing good about the online resource is
This is the world.
they have
Always
videos,
Always
they have
looking.
animation, they have a lot of things as a resource to you. Okay, so one thing I want you to do is, if you let me just double check. Go here. Yeah, here, student resource. Can you see that on the screen? Student resource, because under course introduction, student resource.
Yeah.
You click on that, you'll be brought to this page, and I want you to scroll down to packet tracer. Okay, and you're here, click on packet tracer resources. You'll open another page, and you can download other things from here, but the one thing that I want you to download and install right into your computer is this Windows desktop version 7.3.1 English. Now, I think most of us have 64-bit Windows 10, yeah? So click on that to download and install it. Okay, we're not going to use it today, but we're going to be use it on Friday, where when we do our practical. Right, what it is once you install it, you will start to see something like this when you open it. And you can, after you install, you can play around with it first, and play around with it. It's the main simulation software that we are going to use, right? So I'm just going to briefly, because I'm going to talk about this further in Friday practical, but what you can do here is basically you can, it's a simulator. That means when you create a network here, I'll take one end device and I'll take another, and maybe take a switch. I'll put a switch here. And basically, without access to hardware, real hardware, it's very expensive, but you will, in the next course, computer networks, you'll be using real hardware. We have that lab in our campus. But in the meantime, for your introduction, you can sort of basically play around with using packet trace software to work with creating networks. For example, like this. Okay, and it's a simulation, right? Because we can actually do something. We can actually go in and configure, okay? Configure into the switch, for example, right? Just as if you are configuring a real Cisco switch. Okay, it's simulated in software, so you can do a lot of scenarios, creating networks, local area networks, even all the way up to wide area networks. So this will be our main practical simulation software for us to learn about networking and also to create and design networks. All right. So we'll talk more about packet tracer on Friday during our practical. So please do download, okay, and install. Right.
Where download?
Right. So I'm just gonna go back here. From the main page, student resources, go here, click packet tracer resource, okay, and then it will open up this page, download Cisco packet tracer, go down to download and download the Windows desktop version. Usually, you just download 64-bit. Usually, our Windows is 64-bit. Is that okay? Everyone managed to go to this page to download?
Yeah.
Yeah?
64.
Yeah, 64. Usually 64-bit. So if we look at your system, right? If you see that it's actually here, you can see 64-bit operating system. So you should download 64-bit. Why? Because when it match, 64-bit and 64-bit. 64-bit application, 64-bit operating system means it's working the best. Okay, it will be, because 30-bit in 64-bit means it's emulated by Windows. So 64-bit in 64-bit, it match, your app and your OS match. So that's the best way to run an application. You have other version. If you have Mac, you can download that. If you are running Linux, okay, instead of Windows, you can download this. But typically, we all use Windows, right? So we just use 64-bit. Can I confirm everyone managed to already download?
I've already installed.
Oh, okay, good. Right, so if there is no problem, everybody managed to go in to access your network profile, right? Have access to all of this. Yeah. So if there's no problem, then I will continue. So in fact, my course introductions is finished already. Before we actually transition to the lecture, do you have any questions? I will. Yeah. Sorry. Go ahead.
Can I like have another C token?
Oh, okay. What's wrong with you with currency token?
Yeah, haven't received the activation link.
Okay, I think I can give. Can you take this number 4?
Oh, number 4. Okay.
Yeah. This one, HTJ6JV. I created a few just in case of this situation.
Okay.
Just make sure when you type it, the casing makes is the same, exactly the same. Uppercase A, T, and then lowercase J, 6JV.
Okay.
Let's see what I can see. Actually, I see that you already have never delivered. Okay, so are you okay now? No, I can see it on screen. No,
Yeah.
Lilian.
Just the
Can you access already?
wait. Oh, okay.
You're using
Can
which one? The Claris or this one, Lim?
Oh, yeah.
Which one are you using now?
The Claris.
Claris, yeah. So it's still in progress. In that case, I delete the other one, this one, huh?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, I'll delete that later. Anyway, let me know if this is
Okay. Thank you.
is it okay now? Can you access now?
Oh, yeah. Can already.
Can already, yeah? Okay. So so everyone able to access. So I'm just gonna, before I finish off with the NetAcad, I want you to see the module group exams, right? Okay, so I will activate, when we finish any chapters, I will activate the modules. When I activate that, that means you can have the module exam. That means you can then try out those module exams. And let me reiterate that there is no marks for the coursework from the module exams from within ACAD. This is, you can view this module exam as your revision. That means you've read about the notes and the slides and things like that, right? You did the tutorial, then you want to test yourself, your knowledge. You can do the module exam. It's MCQ, IDC style of exam. Is online, all right? Then you can do it. Okay, you can do, I think, more than one time. I will confirm with you how many times you can do per module. And that will basically reinforce what you have learned, because when you test yourself, you know which one you know how to answer, which one you don't know how to answer. So once you don't know how to answer, then you can go back and reread or ask question about it. Okay, so treat it as your revision, point of revision. Okay, sometimes we read and read, but we don't basically assess ourselves. We don't know which part we don't know, or which part we still not very sure about. So doing this revision, this module exam is help you as part of the revision. Okay, right. So at the end of the semester, this is the course feedback I was talking about. After you do the course feedback, I will remind you again about this towards the end of the semester. And this is the final exam, which will be activated at the end of the semester. Okay, so these two is the ones that you're going to do. Okay, that will get you the cert. Okay, the cert from Cisco. Now, one good thing about when you do the module exams, as you go through the semester, you're doing the module exams, that will prepare you. Okay, the kind of question, sometimes it's repeated, sometimes it's not, but it will prepare you for the final exam. So by the time when you do the final exam, since you've been practicing on the module exam, okay, it will be easier for you, right? Remember that this all these exams online, it's open book. It's open book for you. Okay. All right. So any questions about the course introduction?
No.
No.
No, so if no, I will proceed. I'll start to record already. I will proceed to our lecture. So I will give you a break later on, because we start from 9:30. Now it's already 10:30. So after 1 hour, okay, maybe around 11:30, I'll give you a break. So today's tutorial, unfortunately, will be taken up partly by the lecture, because we did some time on the course introduction. All right. So just tell you what's going on. Huh? Right. So I'm going to start to record our meeting, because we're going to start the chapter 1. You all know how to access the recording, right? When you go back to your calendar and you see our meet, yeah, right? This is from another lecture I had yesterday, recorded as well. You can see that it's going to be attached there, right? So if you're wondering, okay, how do I access the recording? So basically, once recording is done, it will appear here. Right now, there is not, yeah, not yet. Okay, so you can then skip to whichever week lecture that you want to view. Just go back, and you can check there. So go here. Okay, of course, these are not your classes. your classes that is available in the calendar will have the recorded meet attached to it. Right? So let's go straight to here. So we'll start with chapter 1. Okay, Introduction to Networks. So this chapter is basically introducing you to some a very gentle introduction to the network. Yeah. So we're going to look at a lot of terminologies and differentiate between them. For example, here you can see we'll start off with globally connected, and then the next section we'll talk about the local area network, wide area network, and the internet. Yeah? And then we look at network components, we differentiate between local area network and wide area networks. What's the difference between internet, intranets, and extranets? Some of it you basically look at in your IT courses. So maybe just a refresher. And then we look at internet connections. To that, we look at the network itself performing as a platform, and we look at this thing called converged networks. Right, and then we look at new trends, incoming trends, okay, for networking. Right, so here we want to talk about how networks affect our daily lives. As I gave one example earlier on. Okay, so the global world is now in the throes of a pandemic called COVID-19, and to avoid infection, a lot of people are actually staying at home, and they practice social distancing. Okay, for a lot of students, they are asked to do their study at home, and a lot of companies also ask their employees to work from home. So none of this would have been possible, okay, if there is no networks. We are very, very fortunate in our lives now that the infrastructure, the network infrastructure is in place. Okay, is in place to enable us still to communicate, to work, to study, or to learn, even though we are at our own place of residence or our own home, right? So he says, welcome to a world where we are more powerful together. We always know that human beings are social people. Yeah, means we want to communicate, we want to work together, we want to share things to each other, right? And actually that is a strength. We can do more together, right? So the thing is, we talk about human network. The human network is, you can basically see that in the social media, where people actually connected to other people via the social media, and you can see that need to be a part of the human network, right? And so you can see the network infrastructure actually enables this human network to be larger. Think about before the advent of networks in our life, the computer networks. We also form network, but it is a small network. Okay, our friends, our circle of friends, right? Because it's very difficult to connect because there's no network. So millennials probably they can imagine this. When they're born, the network infrastructure is in place. But if you think about the older generation, when they grow up, they don't have this kind of networking in their life. So their network, their circle of friends, the circle of human networks is very small. It's quite small. Maybe it's their immediate family, the immediate friends, their workplace. So what has networking enabled is human beings are now able to create networks beyond their borders. They are able to form networks globally. Okay, so whether it's social, all right, or work, you can see that companies are now able to do business across nations, across continents, in fact, the whole world. Right? So we feel closer to each other. no place on earth are now inaccessible. As long as the network infrastructure is in place, we can talk about all the different types of networking medium or networking infrastructure to enable this later on. But you can imagine even the remote places where people seldom are able to go to physically is also accessible. Okay, I remember people who climb Mount Everest, very, very remote up there in the mountains. They are able to do blogging. They blog about their progress because they are able to connect via satellite. Okay, they connect via satellite, so the network connection is enabled via the satellite communication. So they are able to basically access the World Wide Web and basically inform people about their progress climbing up the mountain. Right? So we can think about all the remote places on Earth, how our life is richer because we are able to connect to other people, right? Other people, and also our businesses has grown so much because of this, and billionaires have been created because of this availability of this network, especially in the area of e-commerce, right? So talk about no boundaries anymore. A world without boundaries, because networks go beyond the boundary of a nation, right? As I said before, right? Networking basically link up all the countries in the world, even those remote countries can be connected. Okay, so we are not talking about global community. We used to talk about local communities, our own village, our own suburban area, our own urban area. Just our schools, our college, things like that. Those are local communities, because people around you that you can reach out to. But now with the network capability, network infrastructure in place, we are now able to talk about global communities. Okay, especially for related to students, students that play video games, right? Now, when you play video games with your friends, you're not just talking about friends which is nearby to you. You can actually create a community of like-minded gamers that comes from all over the world. Okay, so now you have a group of players forming a community which is actually remote to each other. All right, so Cisco refers to the impact of the internet and networks on people, the human network. Because at the end of the day, this network infrastructure that we build around us, is actually to support the human network, the human need, whether it's commerce, okay, do business, or it's emotional, where we want to build connection to each other. It is actually a human network. So human network is the driving force behind the network infrastructure we see. People spend billions of dollars to connect continents together. The lay down cable, fiber optic cable across oceans, Atlantic Oceans or Pacific Ocean, or even South China Sea for Malaysia. Because of this, the human network, they want to create a human network, a global human network. Okay. Right. So closer to home. That means this actually affects students and lecturers also, right? Very much. Networks support the way we learn, right? So we talk about before the pandemic happened. We already start talking about online learning, distance-based learning. Okay, for some, because for a lot of students who don't have the resource close to them, before the pandemic, they want to learn. Students basically are in the more rural area, but they do have network connection, but they don't have access to resource. They don't have libraries, very well-stocked libraries. They don't have lecturers that is, very good lecturers close to them. So what they do, they actually use network to connect to all these resources online, connect to all the tutors, the lecturers online. Okay, so this last time called distance learning, but due to the pandemic right now, we are forced to be in a situation where we have to learn from home. right? So I guess a lot of students, they've been going through many months of whether it is MCO or CMCO, whether still learning from home. So the question becomes very poignant. Do you remember sitting in a classroom like this, right? The thing is, the question here says, you don't have to be in school anymore to take a class. So this actually is closer to home for us, because yes, we are going through this training. We are having a class, okay, but not in the typical physical environment anymore. Now, there are a lot of pros and cons about this. Okay, so we're not going to talk about the pros and cons about this in this course, but we're talking about what enables this. Okay, the network enables this kind of situation. Can you imagine if we do not have the infrastructure, network infrastructure we have right now? So how are we? That means everything will just basically stop, right? For learning purpose, we can't go to college. Then how are we going to learn without the network infrastructure? And unfortunately, for some areas in Sabah, this is actually a very real thing. There is no network infrastructure, or if there is, it's very limited. So for a lot of these kind of students, they do not have the capability to go for online learning, right? So that emphasizes how important network is, right? And as you go through this course, you will start to notice not only that you learn how network works or how to implement networks, but you will also realize, maybe before this you already realized, but now it actually drives home, okay, how important network is and why nowadays you cannot turn anywhere without being informed or know about networking. Right, networks support the way we work, so we move on towards we transition to business, right? So we talk about globalization. Globalization just means that the way you do business is no longer local, and it's actually bring democracy to the business. Last time, if you want to do business over your own borders, it will take a lot of capital to do that. You know, you have to open an office somewhere outside from Malaysia. You have to open an office in Japan. It's going to be very expensive, right? And all your branches without networks to connect them will be very difficult to perform the communication. Everything will work very slowly. But now, with the network infrastructure in there, now you can think of your business in the global way. It's globalization. So let's say you want to do dropship business. So you sign up to, let's say, a local Lazada, right? Now you start to see that not only you open up to Malaysian, okay, because Lazada can be accessed online, Now, especially if you go for the top tier e-commerce websites like Amazon or AliExpress, now your customers, you cannot think about local customers anymore. You start to think about global customers, right? Okay, so now you start blogging. Let's say you start blogging. The people who read your blog are not only local anymore, because the internet is available globally. Everyone in the whole world will be able to read your blog. Okay, so now you are thinking globalization. So the communication is now global. So when we talk about communication, you can see the various examples there. Texting, social media like Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, things like that, social media. Texting, basically, you're using instant messaging right now, whether you're still using WhatsApp or you go for Signal or you go for WeChat or you go for Telegram texting. Collaboration tools. Okay, we've been using Google Doc, for example. We can collaborate on documents. These are one form of collaboration tools. Okay, I talk about blogs. Okay, web blogs. where you basically type contents that other people want to read. Okay, so you communicate via that. Or maybe you create wikis. Most popular wiki that we know is Wikipedia. Yeah? So wikis hold information in a easy way for people to peruse them. You have to go through them. Or you're doing podcasting. Okay, podcasting, you basically have people subscribe to your podcast. So every week you basically release some audio podcasts. Basically. Okay, so these are the forms of communication, and this form of communication now, your audience is global. Okay. Okay, so data networks have evolved into helping support the way we work. So we'll see later on, because networks is available everywhere, you're not limited to your office anymore. You're not sitting there. In order for you to be able to access your office information system, for example, you no longer need to, okay, I need to use my office computer to access my office information system. I need to go to office and sit down in one of the terminals or workstation, not to log in there. No longer. Because we have now infrastructure, network infrastructure, so they can actually allow you to securely to access your office information system remotely. Right? Online learning opportunities decrease costly and time-consuming travel. We used to, if we want to have a meeting, or now one of the things I ask my students is, oh, how do you feel about online learning now? Okay, are you looking forward to face-to-face? Of course, there are a mixture of answers, but one of the answers they gave me is actually, oh, sir, now it's so easy. Online learning is so easy. We don't have to drive, or no one have to drive us to college, and we don't have to wake up very early or deal with traffic jam, things like that. Okay, for students, they wake up, they get ready, they have breakfast, they can straight away switch on the computer and they can straight away start learning. Okay, compare that to the face-to-face, the student have to wake up very, very early, maybe get their breakfast along the way, and they have to drive, or they have to follow their friends or their parents or whoever, have to send them to college. Right, and then they have to rush, and along the way they have to contend with stress of traffic jams. Right, so these are actually time-consuming. The travel is costly, time-consuming. Okay, employee training is becoming more cost-effective. Okay, I'll give you an example. Last time, the lecturers in TAUC, when they need to go for workshop during the semester break, right? It's conducted in main campus. So they have to basically book a place to stay. They have to book air tickets. They have to travel to airport, take the plane, go down to the KLIA, from KLIA go to KL Central, and then go to, there's the whole trip itself takes half a day, right? So if the training is maybe Monday, they have to travel starting from Sunday. Even the branch campuses in the West Malaysia, they drive here from Penang. They have to drive, so they take an extra day just to travel down to the main campus to attend the next morning. Because the next morning it starts around 8:30. If you travel in the morning, there's not enough time. So there's an extra cost involved, staying there longer, and also extra cost in the traveling. But during the pandemic, now the workshop is conducted online. All of this becomes disappeared. There is no more need to book a hotel, or to book a place to stay, or to book like a traveling expenses. Yeah. Right. Network support the way we play. Okay. I think most students know about gaming. Right, so one of the things is multiplayer online gaming. Secondly, we also watch or stream movies and TV shows directly from the internet. Okay, one example I can give is Netflix. Everybody now seems to have Netflix subscription, right? So we have a lot of entertainment nowadays available to us via network, right? So how do you play on the internet? How do you find your entertainment or hobby? Okay, what does the internet provide you in terms of entertainment? Right, think about it. I think you all of us have our own answer. What does the internet provide us in terms of entertainment? Some of us download ebooks because we like to read books. Some of us go to YouTube because we subscribe to certain individuals, certain channels that it seems interesting to us. Or we binge watch our favorite shows from Netflix, for example. They're all streaming to us nowadays. Okay. To mention, because the network give us global connection, some kind of very obscure hobbies that we like, now we can find people with similar interests online as well. All right. So if you know of Reddit, you can actually go to Reddit and join or subscribe Reddit groups specifically to your interests. Okay. We all use the internet in different ways. All right, so we move from that section to network components. So here we're moving from what the network can give us, why the network is so important to us, to what is the network? When we talk about network infrastructure, we talk about network communication or network this and that. What is the network, right? So first of all, we look at this screen here. We talk about client server kind of network. Client server kind of network means there is a server with services that clients need. That's why we call it a client server kind of network. So the services running on the server, okay, is needed by many people. Okay, so the computer, the people is on that is requesting services from that server, it becomes a client. So what kind of services does the server run? So here we get 3 examples. Email. So the email server basically will perform the services of providing you, helping you to basically convey your email message or tell you that you have email message from another email server, so you can then download and read the email message. Okay, so if you are the one that connecting to the email server because you want to send an email or retrieve an email to read, then you are the email client. Okay, the email server is the one that is providing the email services to you. An example there is web. Okay, so whenever you open a web browser, your web browser is the client. Okay, in terms of app, your web browser is a client. In terms of host, your computer where you open the web browser is your host client. Okay, the client connects to the server that is hosting the web server. So the web server has web pages within it, okay, that you want to view. So when you want to view a certain web page, your web client will contact the web server asking for that particular web page. If the web page exists and you are authorized to view it, the server will then retrieve the web page and sends it back to you, the web client. Right? So client server again, yeah. And the third example is file. We all have been using OneDrive. I give you that example because you can have a local area network example, you can have a wide area network example. For the wide area network example, the internet, we talk about file server, you think about all the services provided by big companies like OneDrive from Microsoft, Google Drive from Google. Okay, so these are servers that basically store your files. So now you can, from a client, your computer, you can upload or download Okay, those files. And side effect of that is that you can also allow those files to be shared to other users, right? Right. So clients send requests to servers to get whatever service the server provides, right? And the server will provide back that service to the client. Okay, so that's client server. So when you look at the network, you typically see this kind of situation happening. Right? We talk about email, the web, and then file sharing. We typically think about client-server situation. Now, there's a different type of network connection that we call peer-to-peer. Right? Now, peer-to-peer means that there is no individual host computer that is reserved to be just a server, or a computer that's reserved to be just a client. Okay, they normally perform both roles. Okay, they can be a server and a client at the same time. It depends, right? So in here, this example is in a local area network where one computer is connected to a printer. And to save cost, of course, you share the printer, right? You share the printer, so you don't have to buy one printer for each of your employees, for example. You buy one printer and all the employees share this one printer. So normally, how do you configure it? You take the printer, connect to a computer, and this computer acts as the printer server, right? Because it has connection to the printer. Other computer will then request to print, will request that computer, printer server, okay? This printer server, other printers will request it in order to be able to access the printer to print. So in that situation, this computer becomes the print server, okay? But at the same time, there may be another computer is used to do file sharing. Okay, it has storage allocated inside it where it stores files that other computer might find useful and want to retrieve. So in that case, initially this is a print server, but it also requests files from this file server here, right? So then, and for that particular usage, this print server is a client. It's a client for the file server. So at the same time, it is a print server. It is also a client for the file server residing in another computer. Okay, and similarly, this computer, although it's a file server, it is also sometimes a client for the print server, because sometimes this computer wants to use the printer. So in this kind of situation, do we call this a server or client, or this a server or client? Okay, it's very ambiguous. In this kind of configuration, we actually call these computers peer-to-peer. They're actually equal to each other because they can be a server, they can be a client, depending on the services they require or they provide. Right? So one good thing about this is that it is very easy to actually configure. For example, if I have, let's say this document, I want to share to anybody inside my own network, I can just go to, actually I should use, right, so actually I can go to documents and I can just start sharing. Go to properties, sharing. It's very easy. I can just do that. And there I will be sharing it, right? So that's one of the good thing about peer-to-peer. It's very easy to set up. Even the printer, I can just right-click on Windows interface. I can just right-click on the printer and start sharing it. Then everybody can then print from my printer. Then I become print server, right? very easy to set up, but it's very hard to manage. If it's in a small local area network, when I say small, you have maybe 5 to 10 computers, maybe even up to 20, still manageable. Why? Because it's not secure. You know, if I want to impose security, I have to go to every computer to configure it, because the configuration of the peer-to-peer services is from every computer. Every computer can share whatever they want to share, files, printer, so on. So if I'm a system administrator, I have to go to each individual computer to configure it. What if I want to have, I have enterprise where I have 100 computers. Can you imagine the poor system administrator having to go to every computer, 100 computers, I have to go to every computer to impose the security permission, and I have to configure all the services of every computer. So it is not manageable for a large network. Small network, this is okay. It's easy to maintain, you know. But for large network, every time my security needs change, I have to go to every computer to change it. So you can see the advantages. Peer-to-peer is easy to set up. It's less complex because it's very easy to just do. Lower cost. Lower cost because everything I need is already in that each computer. I can just right-click, share my files. I can just right-click, share my. It's very easy. There's nothing else I need. Okay, and it's very useful for doing simple tasks. If you want my files, I can just share to you. You can see my share drive. Then you can just download the file. Very easy. Very for small things like transferring files, to share the printer, to print your document is very good. But it's the disadvantage, yeah? It's not scalable. Not scalable means if I grow my network, suddenly my network is 100 computers, then I find difficulty in doing that thing. It's not secure because everyone can perform the sharing their own way. They can share to everyone, they can share to A, they can share to B, and as a security administrator, it's very difficult for me to go and check every computer. Okay, what do you share, and to whom you share, and to impose some kind of rules to it, right? It's slower because it's peer-to-peer, right? It's peer-to-peer. So what I mean is all these computers are normal computers. Right? So what if one computer now share to 20 other computers? Okay, so the housekeeping, the overhead of doing the sharing on that particular computer now become a burden, because 20 computers connect to that computer that's doing the file sharing, and all the 20 computers are like downloading, uploading, whatever. So this particular computer that's doing the sharing is just a normal computer, and of course, now it's overburdened. So you'll find that the user experience is that, okay, when I'm trying to share or download from that computer, it's very slow. Okay, no centralized administration, because like I said earlier on, if we want to administer this computer, who can share, who cannot share, who can print, I have to physically go to each computer, right? Okay, so if you think about this, the client server is different. The server itself can be secured in its own room. And if I want to impose any administration restriction, I can just go to that server, only that server, and impose it there, and everybody, all the clients that is requiring service from this server will need to adhere to that particular configuration. And it's scalable, because the server, usually when you buy a server, the server is very, very powerful. And you have already decided when you buy the powerful computer, how many users it will be able to serve. So let's say you start with 20, and then you go out to 30, 40, 50. All you need to do is, if your server is not very capable anymore, is to upgrade the server. So it's very scalable. And because a server is meant to do that and that thing only, to serve those kind of maybe files or print or server, whatever server it is meant to do that. So it is very efficient. Okay, so you'll find that the disadvantage low performance now is gone if you're using a server. So the moral story is small networks, peer-to-peer is okay. Maybe it's even better. If you do a client server in small network, sometimes it's overkill. But if you are doing a large network, right? So the thing is, you might be thinking client server is much better if you have a large network rather than peer-to-peer. All right. So now that we know that the two types of networks that we can create in terms of providing services, let's see what is a network composed of. Right. So it's very simple. To be honest, when you think about a network, so complicated, but at the end of the day, you can actually boil it down to three main things. Okay, devices. Network is composed of devices, the end devices and network infrastructure devices. So we talk about end devices, we're talking about the end point of the network. That means when you reach that device, the network doesn't go any further. Right? The network stops there. So if you have a laptop and you connect to the network, your laptop becomes an end device because the network doesn't go any further from your laptop. Right? The other device is the network infrastructure devices. They act, these devices are network infrastructure devices act as the glue, to link all the end devices together. Okay? End devices form a network, and this network, there are many networks. So how do you link all these end devices together or the networks together? So we need network infrastructure devices. They link networks together and they link devices together to form the network. Examples will be switch, routers, modems, right? So we have devices. How do we connect these devices? By using media. We connect the end devices to each other and to network infrastructure devices using media. Now there are two types of media, cable or wireless. So sometimes we call the cable as wired or wireless, or cable or wireless. Cable, you can actually see the cable linking those devices together. Okay, but if wired cable are not not required or not needed, okay, because you don't want wire to be everywhere, you might opt for wireless. For wireless, we use the air itself to transfer communication, so you don't see any cable, right? So we have devices, we have the media. So that means we have the infrastructure ready. We connect all the devices together using the media. But is that enough? No. We need the final thing that makes this worthwhile. Okay, makes it worthwhile for us to create devices and link them using media. These are the services. And services usually are software that's running on those network devices. Without services, there's no point for the network. It is actually the services available that makes us willing to spend money to create the devices and the media connecting them. Right? And this is actually the value, the real value of the network is the services. Without services, why would you want to use the network? No point, right? Right? So these three are the three components, the basic components for network. When we have these three, that's it. You have a network already. Okay? Right? So end devices. We talk about end devices where the message originates from and where it's received. So you can think about, you connect two end devices together because you want a message coming from one end device to actually reach another end device. So you want to transfer the message from one end device to another end device. Okay, so origins means the source. Okay, receive is where the destination. So sometimes you call it data, yeah. Data travels from one end device, travel through the network. Okay, travels through the network, however near, however far, until it reaches the destination end device. Okay, so as I said before, the end devices are the endpoints of the network. When you reach end device, there is no more to go to. There is no more network to go to because you are at the end of the network already. Okay. So intermediary or network infrastructure devices are the ones that connect end devices and also connects network together. Right? So what do? Well, because they are in the between, yeah, inside the network itself. Okay, they sometimes, if your signal become weak, these network devices, intermediary network devices, will recreate or regenerate and retransmit those weak data signals, for example. They also knows about the path because they are the one that's connecting all the network path, right? So they know about the path of the network. So they have information about the network. So what kind of information? Okay, sometimes about congestion or whether that path is available or temporarily available or not, whether that path is congested or not, whether that path is longer time or this path takes shorter time, for example. These are the information that they have. So they help messages pass through the network. They basically forward those messages along, right? So because they have this information about the network, they can inform other devices, other intermediary network devices, if the network experience any errors or communication failures. Just think about it this way: if you're from your home, you want to go to campus, there are multiple roads that you can take, right? So some roads are shorter, some roads are longer. Okay, but necessarily the shorter ones will bring you faster to the college because it might be congested. Because everyone thinks that okay, that path is shorter, so we all take that path lah. But then that will cause congestion, and congestion will actually delay you more. So you think about intermediate network device as devices in the network that can inform you. So that means can inform other devices. Hey, you know what? Don't pass the data through this network because this network is congested. Okay, so that intermediary network device can then make decision. Okay, so I don't, pass the data through this particular part of the network because it's congested. I've just been informed, so I maybe take this other path, although it's longer, but it's not congested. So just pass it through. So decisions are made every time when your message is flowing through the network. Okay, so all these are being done by these intermediary network devices. You can see examples down there: wireless router, LAN switch, router, firewall appliances, multi-layer switch. These are examples of intermediary network devices. Right, for network media, remember we talked about cable and wireless. Okay, so cable, there are two types. They are either copper cable, copper wire, right? You can see shown here. Okay, for copper wire, there are metal wires inside. The metal is a copper. Now, why is it copper? Why not? Is copper the best? Actually, copper is not the best. If you want to talk about the best, it's actually gold. Almost no friction if you use gold. But then you'll find that after you lay out the cable, not 1 hour after you left, I think you find that the cable is gone already. because gold is a very expensive metal. So copper, some people who still find that copper will be stolen, but less cases of that. Okay, it's a balance between the cost of the metal and its capacity to transfer electricity. So that means when you're using copper cable, you're actually using electricity inside. You encode data into it using electrical impulses to pass the data inside the copper wire. That's one type of cable. The other type of cable is the fiber optic cable. Now, fiber optic cable inside it, is either a very transparent plastic or they're using glass. Okay, and what does it carry? Well, it carries light. So how you encode data, you vary the pulses of the light traveling inside the fiber optic. Okay, so later on we'll talk more about this, but we'll know that fiber optic, because it's using light, okay, it's so much better than copper, which is using electricity to transfer data. We'll talk about that later, yeah. And then the second option is actually wireless. Right? So if you think about, oh, how does it do that? Well, the technology that's been there all along is the radio. Whenever you switch on your radio, you can hear, radio programs, right? It's been broadcasted to you from the radio station all the way to your home. Okay, but instead of carrying data, it's carrying audio. Okay, audio signal. So think about it. So if you just change that, instead of carrying audio signal like radio, it's actually carrying digital data, then you have wireless transmission. Okay, so it's using the airwaves itself. It's modulating the airwaves to actually encode digital signal. Okay, just like normal radio, FM radio, you listen to it every day. Just like the concept is the same, but of course the technology behind it is a little bit more complex, because it needs to carry a digital signal, okay, in the airwaves, okay, at a certain frequency. Well, again, we'll talk about this when we talk about physical layer later. Okay, but this forms the network media. These are the things that connects the end devices and the intermediary devices together to form the network infrastructure. Right. All those no point if there are no services, because it is this services is the reason why we actually create network in the first place. Right? These are the things that make it value, that we want some services, okay, that helps us, that's useful to us. So network service actually is to provide information in response to a request. So you want a service, you request for it. So then the information comes back to you as response to your request. Right? So we talked about email earlier on. We talked about web server. Talk about file sharing. Okay, these are the services. There are many services actually. So talk about your entertainment. They provide the game server provide multiplayer capability to you, so you can play games with your friends. You can stream videos from YouTube or Netflix, or you can listen to podcasts. You can look up Wikipedia. All these are services. And these are the services that make the network so valuable, right, to people. That's why you want to pay a certain amount of money every month so that you can access the internet, right? So apart from services that you need, there are also services, what we call it processors, that actually running, but it's not needed by the normal user. These processors run because they provide functionality to make the network work. For example, you can see processors provide the functionality that directs and moves messages through network. So there are processors running within switch another intermediate device, and also routers. These processors, basically, what are we going to configure in a practical? We're going to look at these processors. We can configure some of these intermediate devices like switch and routers. So we are, because we do not actually directly need these processors, we need to say, if you go online, you think about, okay, Wikipedia, you think about other YouTube, things like that, but you never think about processors because they are invisible to us, but they are very, very critical to the operation of the network, right? Right, so this is a diagram just highlighting what I was talking about. Right, so before going to network representations and topologies, I seem that we have reached 11:30. Okay, so I'm going to pause our lecture for now and give ourselves a break. Okay, so it's been 2 hours. So I think it's been, I think we need a short break before we continue. Is that okay with you guys?
Okay.
All right. So 15 minutes, okay? Go have a drink, go to use the washroom, things like that. 15 minutes, all right?
Okay.
Okay, so we'll come back together at 11:45, yeah? Okay, I'll restart we'll continue my lecture at 11:45.
Oh, use the other
Okay.
Google Meet.
Yeah, send Google Meet. I will leave it on. I will stop recording. I don't record Google Meet.
Okay. Sir.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back. Noel, your account is still under compliance review. Is that the first one you tried or the second one you tried to register?
The second one.
Second one, huh? Still not, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. Just have a look at it. Yeah. It says never delivered. The one with the Clarice, yeah? Clarice email one.
Yeah.
Hmm. Okay, so let me just try resend invite. Yeah.
No.
I click resend invite. It seems to be the only one I can do. So resend invite to you already. See whether you can see it in your. I'm enrolling the first one. Okay, so Noel, you can check your email, see whether you get any invitation.
Receive.
Okay, so can you proceed to click the link to activate and then see whether you can go in here? Okay, so I'm gonna start to present again my screen. We'll continue with our lecture. So basically, this week there's no lecture. Sorry, tutorial. We're gonna do the tutorial at home as homework, and we're going to discuss it next week. Right, so we were here just now. Okay, so everybody, welcome back to second part of the lecture. We're going to continue on network representations and topologies. Yeah. Okay, so when we talk about network representations, we actually going to look at how we represent the network. Okay. So a lot of times when we are designing or creating or documenting a network, we need to create something called network diagrams. This diagram is very important because it tells us, okay, how is that network configured? Okay, so for network engineers, when they are asked to create a network, they will normally create a network diagram, okay, to help them to figure out, okay, how to create the network. Right, so to create the network diagram, that means you have a certain convention about how to represent the network itself. So we already know that networks components are network end devices and intermediate devices, and also the network media that links all these end devices and intermediary devices together. Right. So you can see at the right hand side of the slides. Yeah? You can see the end devices represented by these icons. Okay, so these icons are taken from the network, Cisco network diagram representation. Yeah, and this is very important for you to identify all these icons, and there are more. Okay, so later on when we start to do our packet tracer, okay, so you will be working with creating and understanding network diagram. So you need to be able to read what these icons represent. So you can see end devices here, right? You can see there's a icon representing desktop computer. IP phone. IP phone means internet protocol phone. That means a phone that does not use the traditional phone network, actually using the digital networks. Okay, to convey all the audio from the conversation on the phone digitally through the digital network, IP phone. Things like when you're using Skype, for example, you're basically using this kind of IP phone. Then we have a representation of laptops. Some of these icons are very representational. That means very obvious for us to see. Here is wireless tablets, printer, and telepresent endpoint. Telepresent usually used in teleconferencing, like a big monitor. Okay, and then we have intermediary devices. Okay, so we have wireless router. You can see the difference between a wireless router and a router by the antenna. Okay, the antenna. So the wireless router, usually you can see these two antenna here, means it's wireless. Okay, and then we have a LAN switch and a multi-layer switch and firewall appliance, and there are more, etc., here. And then for network media, these are just three examples. Normally, when you see this red color zigzag like lightning kind of symbol here in red, these represent the wide area network media. So wide area networks mean it's a network that spans a remote distance. So this shows like a long distance kind of media, right? But it's wired. And then normally for local area network, you'll see this cable, black color line. Yeah, it's just a which represent the LAN media cable. And then for wireless media, you'll see some form of waveform here in blue color. So you see this is a wireless media. Right, important terms to know include NIC or network interface card. So NIC is just an acronym for the network interface card. You know, when you have a wired cable with a connector and you plug in at the back of your computer or at the side of your laptop, okay, that port where you plug in the cable is actually attached to a network interface card. Sometimes this network interface card is a card on its own when you plug in into the adapter plug slot of your computer. But most of the time in modern computers, this network interface card is built onto the motherboard of the computer itself. Okay, so you can see that the port is attached to the motherboard. Okay, it's already built in. Right, terms to know: NIC is a network interface card. Physical port. The physical port is the part where you plug in your connector, your cable connector into. Okay, now interface is actually very physically similar to physical port. The only difference is that for interface means that port is given an IP address, right? So certain port are just physical port. There is no IP address configured for it. But if you configure an IP address to a port, okay, that port name automatically becomes interface. So when we talk about interface, we're talking about a port that has an IP address or is able to be configured with an IP address, right? In this course, that's how we differentiate between normal port and an interface port. Right. So again, we talked about this already, right? Let's talk about here. Moving on to topology diagrams. Okay, so topology diagrams, when you look at the keyword topology, it just means what's the shape of certain things. Okay, we are thinking about the shape. So here we're talking about network diagrams. So the topology diagrams means the shape of the network, right? So you can basically have two topology diagrams. One is physical, okay, physical topology diagrams, and the other one is logical topology diagrams. Okay, how to differentiate between these two? When we talk about physical topology diagrams, we actually, when we are looking at the diagrams, when we look at the end devices and the media and the intermediary devices, we are actually looking at the physical representation and location of the devices. You can see here, it's very important to know that when you look at here, oh, I see the web server, email server, file server. It's actually located in server room, for example. And this in this room, and these are in individual class. For example, so physical topology will tell us the real physical location of the devices and the wiring. Okay, the wiring. So it's very, very good to as a documentation if you want to know exactly where your network devices are and how is it wired together. Okay, that's the focus for physical topology diagrams. Right? Logical topology diagrams is usually created and is very useful for the design of the network itself. So we're not thinking about where to put or to locate these devices and the wiring itself. We are thinking more about, okay, if I want to create a network, how many networks should I create? And when I create a network, how many hosts or end devices will I have there? And what addresses should I give them? So you're thinking more about the logical aspect of the network itself. You can see here addressing scheme, because in order for every devices to be able to contact each other, to communicate to each other, they must be identified uniquely. You must be able to uniquely identify them so you can then communicate with them. So to identify them uniquely, you need to provide the addressing. So you have to design the addressing scheme for your network, right? How many networks you have? So for this network, what is the network address inside it? How many hosts do you have? And for each host, what are the addresses you want to provide for each of the hosts, right? So you're concerned more about that in the logical topology diagram. Okay, both are important, yeah. Usually we start off, if you're designing a network, we start off with the logical topology diagrams. And then to implement it, okay, when you want to implement it already, then you have to come up with the physical topology diagrams to help you with the physically locating every devices, where you want to put it, how you're going to wire them together. Okay. Right. Any question on that? On that part?
No.
No. So I move on to the next section. So we talk about local area networks, wide area networks, and the internet. Right. Common types of networks. There are many sizes of networks. So you think about it, because networks is being used by people, and people use networks in a variety of environment and in a variety of situation. So you can see the examples given there. Small home. So that means you think about your own home. You pay monthly to maybe to Telecom, yeah, for either Streamex or Unify, for example, to get access to the internet. But inside your own home, you want to create your own network. So the small home here means the network you create, okay, for your own home. The network is available throughout your entire home. The next one, SOHO, is small office, home office. So these are mostly, these networks are mostly used by small businesses where they have a small office. But it means small office means you have very few employees, very few computers or devices that's connecting to the network. Sometimes small businesses, they operate from home, so that's why we call home office. Okay, small office, home office, SOHO. And then we can think about the medium to large size businesses. Medium to large businesses, they have their own building, and their building can range from maybe 1 or 2 floors to 3 floors to, in fact, a whole skyscraper. You know, so there's a range of sizes of companies, and due to the sizes, you also have to think about when you want to provide networks for them. You have to think about their requirement. Okay, how many office room they have, how many floors, how many buildings, and you want to network all of this together, for example. And the advent of Industry 4.0, we talk about connected factory, smart factory. So think about the size of the factory, and you want to provide networks in there, right? And then you want to link that to your headquarters or your site office. So I think we can say that from small home office to small medium-sized companies to medium to large companies, until we have companies that is a global international companies where they have branches all over the world in many different countries, and each of them needs to be connected to each other. And so that means you're thinking about a network that is encompassing the whole global world, right? So you can see small home networks connect a few computers to each other and the internet. Small office or home office enables computer within a home or remote office to connect to a corporate network. When we work from home, WFH, then sometimes I say the information system in the main office you want to access. So how is the connectivity like? How are you going to connect between your home office to your main office computer so you can access the information system there? Medium to large networks, many locations with hundreds of thousands of interconnected computers. So this mid-size, start to see hundreds or thousands of computers already inside the network. And then finally, we look at the worldwide networks, where we connect hundreds of millions of computers worldwide, such as the internet. Right? So we can see a different situation, different network sizes. From that is where we when we are designing the network, we have to see about the size of the network required. So networks infrastructure vary greatly in terms of size of the area covered by the network, number of users connected inside the network, number of types of services available, and area of responsibility. Means if we talk about network, how big area the network should be covering. Okay, and which part of the, let's say if I want to network a company, I can just network the whole company, become one network. Or think about area responsibilities in the company, maybe it's departmental. So you have the human resource, you have the accounting, you have the R&D, you have the manufacturing, or whatever, sales and marketing, for example. Each of them have different usage for the computer. So maybe my network encompasses only for the functionally only for the each department, but then I link them together. I segregate the network so that each department has their own network, but then I link them together. Maybe that's how I want my network to be. And usually, typically, in the real world, this is how you create network. It's just not just say that, oh, this company, I just give one network, the whole company. Sometimes that doesn't work out. Right? So two most common types of networks are local area network and wide area network, LAN or WAN. Okay, so let's differentiate between them. So a LAN, due to the name local, it's a network that only span a small geographical area. It's a small area. It could be as small as a room, okay, or a house, okay, or a floor, right? So you can see there interconnect end devices in a limited area. So a LAN is where the nearby end devices are connected together. You connect them together to form a network. And because they're close to each other, okay, small geographical area, we call that network a local area network. Right? So typically this local area network is administered, looked after by a single organization or individual. Right? And because they are close to each other, okay, the bandwidth within this LAN usually is typically very fast. Okay, high speed bandwidth. Right? Because they are close to each other. You can see local area network is small area, and you typically connect all the nearby end devices together to form the LAN. And because they are nearby, usually the bandwidth is very, very fast. Okay, think about labs, the computer labs in the college. Okay, in that room, all those computers connected together to form a LAN. And because they're close to each other, typically the speed between them is quite high, so high speed bandwidth. Okay, now look at WAN, wide area network. When we talk about wide area network, we're talking about a larger geographical area. So typically, when we talk about WAN, is we connect all the local area networks together to form a wide area network. So you can see interconnect local area networks over wide geographical areas. So because it covers a large area, and usually it's very expensive to connect remote networks together. So we have to depend on the infrastructure provider. In our case, let's say in Malaysia, we normally look to telecom to provide us the long distance connectivity. So that's why it says number 2, typically administered by one or more service providers. Our service providers here is under telecom, that means it's DNet. Okay, so sometimes fixed line, fixed lease line is usually, I think, sell as the name Metro network or something like that. So that means you have to now depend on the infrastructure provider like TMNet to provide the wide area, geographic area network connectivity. If you look at LAN, the LAN is in just a small place. So that means you yourself can manage it. Okay, you buy network cables, you connect them all together, or using Wi-Fi to connect them all together, form a LAN. But what happens if you want to connect, for example, IOC? You want to connect Sabah branch to KL branch. So we don't have the budget or the capability to actually connect long distance, right? So we have to depend on service providers to provide that kind of service. So because it's long distance, then you of course you will expect it's a slower bandwidth, slower speed compared to local area network, right? Right, so from LAN to WAN to internet. So internet basically is global, right? Unless we populate the moon or Mars, then we have a larger than internet network. But so far, we stay only on physically on Earth. So the whole Earth is interconnected using the network called the internet. So when we talk about internet, remember it's a proper noun, is capital I. Because if you put it small I, then it's just one of those internetwork. Okay, internetwork means you connect all these wide area networks together. Okay, but if you connect all the wide area networks together globally and to form the internet. Okay, so when you write it, ensure that you're using capital I. So that will be proper noun. That means you are actually referring to the internet, right? So the internet itself is not owned by any individual or group. The following groups were developed to help maintain structure on the internet. Maintain structure means if they want to think about how to expand, to scale up, to think about the standards on the internet, then they will work together. So example will be IETF, all these are acronyms, ICANN or IAB. Okay, so the internet, of course, is not owned by any one individual or group. Think about it. When your phone or your computer connect to the internet, your phone or your computer becomes part of the internet. You are the internet already. The moment you connect any devices to the internet, your devices or your own network, your LAN or your WAN becomes part of the internet. Okay, so we don't think of the internet as okay, who owns the internet? It's actually everybody connecting together. Then we call this interconnection the internet, right? But of course, to provide guidance on how to maybe prepare the internet for future improvements or things like that, then you need standard body or standard organization to come in and say, okay, maybe, okay, there's example, maybe to divide all the IP addresses among all the regions on the earth. Okay, this range belongs to Europe, this range belongs to Asia. Then you need a standards body or organization to be able to do that, right? To impose that kind of standards. All right, so we know LAN, WAN, and internet. The internet is basically a public area. Means whatever you share on the internet, if you don't block by using authentication or whatever, then anybody on globally can access it. So if you have a blog and your blog is public, then everybody can see it. So you can see it forms the outer circle, the internet, aka the world. So that's the largest wide area network interconnection, okay, global. So whatever you publish on the internet will be public. But then, if you think about our own college or a company, they do not want everybody to see the data they have or the web pages they have. So they actually have their own authentication. So that means only people belonging to that organization can view their web pages, for example, or their network. So we call that the intranet. So in our own university college, we have our own intranet. In order to prevent the public to view it, they impose authentication. So that means they know for sure if you are able to log in, then you are either student or staff of TAUC. So that means only available to the people who is within TAUC. So that means we call that the intranet. That's why when you are accessing your intranet, we know we can access our own intranet. But sometimes we want to allow not everyone, and not only our people in the TAUC, but certain people. Okay, maybe our partners for companies, maybe their suppliers, maybe their customers, collaborators. Allow them to access some parts of your network, but not the whole public. The whole public will be the internet. You allow. That means the main page of TAUC, for example, is available to the public. So that's the internet. Okay. Your timetable, all these are inside your intranet. So only you can see, or your whoever is in TAUC can see. But in between the internet and intranet, maybe you want to allow certain people certain privilege to access certain part of the company and network. So, and that is what we call extranet. Okay, so here you need to be able to differentiate between what is an intranet, what is an extranet, what is the internet. So normally we explain in terms of who can access that network. If your own people only, that's intranet. If your own people plus some outsiders, then extranet. If everyone can access, then that's internet. Okay? You can see that. Only from within the company, from home, or just belonging to the particular organization only. Right? Allow third-party access. Not everyone, not only the people within the organization, but the people within the organization plus some people, trusted people, allowed to access the network or the data inside the network. So that's extranet. Okay, so here are some examples on how that is conducted. Yeah. Right, so we move on to network as a platform. Any question before we move? So far, okay, no. Okay, right, so we move to the next section, the network as a platform. Platform for what? So normally, we say it as a platform, then we say what is the platform for what, right? Okay, before we look at the platform, what kind of platform is that? We look back at the internet access technologies, right? So internet access means if you want to access the internet, how would you connect to the internet? Okay, typically for us, we have a smartphone. Let's say we have a smartphone and we just buy the access connection via our service provider, right? So if you're with DG, then you pay DG a certain amount every month, then they allow you to connect to the internet, right? So this is what we mean. Okay, but there are many ways to connect to the internet. Okay, so always think in terms of Malaysia also. How do we connect to the internet? So we basically, when you look at these ways to connect, you can also think about, in Malaysia, how do we do that? Popular services for home user and small office include broadband cable. So broadband cable Basically, in US, television network, television streams are provided to home users via cable, and sometimes they actually also allow internet connection via that same cable, right? So this is not very popular here in Malaysia, but it's starting to be offered already lah. But actually not starting, it's already being offered, but the connectivity at that speed is not available everywhere. Okay, I'm talking about here in Malaysia. If you think about that broadband cable, we're talking about Unify. Okay, so Unify is using broadband cable. It will they pull the fiber optic, okay, very close to your home. In fact, and then they're providing for Unify TV, right? Play TV for telecom, for the Unify under telecom, to provide you streaming TV, and also provide you at the same time the internet connectivity. Now, as I said before, the penetration for this kind of service is very low, especially in Sabah. Okay, you'll be lucky if you live suburban areas or near urban areas, near city, then you'll be able to access this kind of services. But and then if you go beyond that, and then you'll find that you'll have to fall back to the next one, broadband digital subscriber line, DSL. The one that Telecom is actually selling here is called the asynchronous digital subscriber line, ADSL. The A stands for asynchronous. That just simply means the speed for download and upload is not the same. Okay, usually the download is faster, upload is slower. Okay, for normal consumer ADSL line. So that technology, ADSL or DSL technology, uses the public switch telephone network, the normal public switch telephone network, to provide digital access to the internet. All right. So it's much easier because the infrastructure for the public switch telephone network is already there. So they just maybe upgrade certain things, and then they can provide you already the ADSL service. Whereas the broadband cable, they have to invest in putting fiber optic cables close to the area where you want to have the Unify services, right? Next is wireless WANs. I think the P1 service or things like that are using wireless wide area network. Okay, or something that we know is WiMAX, but they rebrand it lah, right? But that one also very limited here in Sabah. Last time there's a P1 in Dongwon. I don't know whether it still exists or not, but its only coverage is about few kilometers, right? If you live at the edge, then of course your bandwidth speed drops a lot. Okay, and they are providing something like a Wi-Fi, but it's larger areas like WiMAX. Okay, and the last one, mobile services, is what we're talking about. The DG, the Maxis, the Cellcoms, the Hotlinks, all these are mobile services way of providing internet access to us, right? Organization need faster connection to support IP phones. IP phones is very similar to Skype, where you can call people using digital network. Video conferencing is one of the technology that needs very high bandwidth. Okay, very high bandwidth because it streams in real time audio and video. And finally, the data center storage. So data center storage means storage is now located in the cloud, right? So organization means they offload their storage, data storage needs to the cloud, and of course they need high-speed bandwidth to retrieve and to upload and download all their data needs. Okay, so business class interconnections are usually provided by service providers and may include business DSL. These lines are very expensive. But the pro for this line is that your organization is the only one using that bandwidth. It's not shared bandwidth. So that means if you buy a like let's say 10 megabits per second bandwidth, then all those 10 megabits per second bandwidth is belong to your organization. It's not going to be shared with other organizations. That's why it's called list lines, right? And finally, Metro Ethernet. Ethernet applied to a wide area network. Okay, so very quickly, if you just because you want to put context to those, TMNet Metro, you can see how much it costs, pricing. Then you can see there, pricing telecom. They also provide Metro Ethernet. You can see there, price per year is 10,000. Bukit Timah, Sarawak, blah, blah, blah. You can go and see. So you can see Malaysia Metro Ethernet services and also the pricing. So these kind of prices are quite expensive for businesses, right? But you typically businesses they have no choice. They need this network connectivity, right? So talking about home and small office internet connections, you can see there are many different options. Whether you use cable, usually here we're talking about fiber optic cable, right? Very high bandwidth, always on internet offered by cable television service providers. So before, it's the balik here in Malaysia. It's because telecom is actually a communication service provider, but then they add on the unified pay TV onto their service. But in Western countries, like for example, United States, there are first and foremost cable television service providers, and then they add on the internet connectivity into their pricing, right? But as I said, it's actually offer the same thing, right? So to provide you television service and also internet. Okay, right. So DSL, digital subscriber line, use public switch telephone network. Here, the most popular one is the ADSL. There's a difference in the speed between download and upload. Typically, download is higher speed and upload is lower speed. Okay, this is what we have in Malaysia. And then cellular basically is like 3G, as I said before. And then satellite. Usually, typically business operators in Malaysia, they have a satellite connectivity if they are remote, because there are no infrastructure available for them to access the internet, so they will probably use satellite. I know that some close by islands will probably use directed microwave, earth-based microwave signal to send and receive internet connectivity. But if the curvature of the earth doesn't allow that, then they have no choice, but they have to actually sign up for satellite. Okay. Now, one reason why companies in here, for example, in KK, they still opt for satellite, okay, even though they have maybe cable, metro, or whatever, is for backup purposes. Their business connectivity is critical in such a way that they cannot lose any connectivity, so they have different redundancy. So if this one connection go down, the list line, then they opt for the ADSL. If the ADSL go down, no choice, okay, then they opt for the satellite. They are willing to provide all this connectivity. So maybe satellite is slow speed, but it's at least it's just a degradation of the facility rather than total crash lah. It means totally nothing, right? They cannot afford that. So you can imagine a financial institution like banks, what kind of internet backup do they have? Internet connection backup. I can tell you for sure, all those banks, they have multiple redundancy in place, just in case one connectivity go down, the other still take over, which is totally different, so it's not affected. So that's why satellite sometimes used for remote, but sometimes used also for backup. Then the most inexpensive or cheapest is dial-up telephone. I think now it become obsolete in Malaysia. If you were there during the early stages of internet connectivity in Malaysia, you will notice that dial-up telephone basically is using the modem that has a very distinct signature connecting sound. Yeah, that was the old one, but I think the typical speed, the highest speed it can go is 57 kbps, kilobits per second, right? At that time it was quite fast lah, but now we look at it and some of us might laugh lah, right? But that was the early internet connectivity. I think provided by Jaring, yeah, Jaring. I don't know where Jaring now. I don't think they're providing it anymore. But it used to be Jaring providing the dial-up telephone for internet connectivity. The bandwidth is quite low, 57K only, kbps. Right, so then we have dedicated lease line. Dedicated lease line is very, very expensive. So then I say the bandwidth belongs to the organization only. Okay, the provider will make sure no other company will make use of that bandwidth. The bandwidth is dedicated to you. Secondly, it is popular because it's secure. Since you are not sharing the bandwidth with anybody else, there is no way for anybody else to be a man, to do a man-in-the-middle attack. You know, eavesdrop on the data passing through the lease line. There's no way because the line is leased by you, it's dedicated to you, to your company. So data flowing through this lease line cannot be intercepted by third party. Okay, so there are double benefits. Okay, so one, you have all the bandwidth to yourself. That means your speed is guaranteed. Second, you also feel more secure about your data passing through the lease line. Right. Next, Ethernet WAN. Right. So this technology extend the Ethernet technology that used for LAN into the wide area network. So we're talking about metro. When we talk about metro Ethernet, it's work on Ethernet WAN. It's called metro because metro usually is a city-wide. Okay, so that means the Internet technology can be applied to city-wide area network. All right, so DSL, business DSL, maybe you, instead of having ADSL, you have the symmetric digital subscriber line. Means to say both download and upload speed are equally the same. Okay, and why would you want to have upload speed, which is high speed? Because you might want to host your own web server, right? So web server means if you run web server, or your employee are actually working remotely offsite. They will be downloading. That means you will be uploading your data. So in that case, you want your upload data, which is the ones that is put by your remote workers, or maybe you're hosting your own web server, and so that means your web page is being pulled by your users outside to be a high speed. Okay, so for business DSL, this scenario is common, so that means they will rather go for the symmetric digital subscriber lines. And then finally, we look at satellite. Okay, you can see there it acts as a redundancy, because we don't want total cut off for our business. Suddenly our customers cannot access whatever services we have. Our own employees cannot access our services. So that means they provide sometimes the satellite connectivity as a redundancy, so that even though the wired solution goes down, you still have the satellite as a backup, satellite connection. All right. So I just want to to highlight, we actually already reached our, and we haven't complete yet. There's still a lot to cover. Oh, not a lot. So if I, please excuse me, I maybe take another 10 minutes of your time. Do you have any class later? Is it okay if I take another 10, maybe 10 minutes of your time?
Okay.
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 Right. So traditionally, networks, we get our services from separate. Think about it. Our radio, we use the different network. Radio have its own network. Television, with even now with the Astro, we get it from our satellite. Last time, terrestrial broadcast, we have it's a totally different network. It's separate. And then our phone. Last time, the analog phone, it's on its own network. Think about even the text message is on its different network, right? Everything is different. So if we talk about the computer networks, again, it's forming its own network. So you can see from the diagram, you can see computer network, its own network, telephone network, own networks, broadcast, radio or television, its own network. Right, so companies are used to maintain multiple networks, and they are all different technologies, different standards, different kind of infrastructure. Okay, so this is what we talk about. Traditionally, all our services that we get are separated. Okay, but you'll find that nowadays all those networks are converging together. They are making use of the computer digital network. So now, if you want to message your friend, you don't use, normally you don't use text message anymore. You use WhatsApp. WhatsApp is an instant messaging. It runs on computer networks. If you want to watch TV, nowadays, seldom people actually cut the cable. They don't want to access Astro anymore. Because why? They prefer to use maybe Disney Plus. They want to go Hulu, Amazon Prime, Netflix, all available to stream from online. I think the only place where people still listen to radio broadcast is in their car. Okay, once their car is connected to internet, I think they will, because a lot of people now consume their radio from the internet. Okay, internet now stream a lot of radio networks and variety of them. So what we see is that all these traditional networks, including phone network, nowadays people, if they want to call, they use Skype, they use WhatsApp, they use whatever online, this is digital network. Less and less people are actually using the traditional network. So what we are seeing is the networks start to converge into one network to provide all our services. And the good thing about this is not only for us in terms of saving costs, but it's also saving costs in terms of the provider. Because now, with a single network, converged network to provide all, to deliver all of these services, then they do not have to maintain separate networks, which is costly. Okay? And the key to this converged network is that the network infrastructure uses the same set of rules and standards. They use the same standards that can make use of the same network. Right? In the next chapter, we'll look at these rules and standards. Yeah. Okay. Network trends. Network trends are what we are seeing is coming up, and in the future is going to be more visible. Bring your own device. A lot of even our college, we don't stop sorry, we don't stop our students to bring their own laptop, their own devices, and then connect to the college campus Wi-Fi network, and then use their own device instead of using the college lab computers, for example. We allow. So a lot of companies also start to do this, right? They allow their employees to bring their own device to use at work. One of the reason is that it's easy to configure your your own device to basically work with the company, right? Work with your company networks, and you have your own way to set your device, because it's personal, to make your work more productive. All right. Second is online collaboration. With the pandemic, it actually enables this online collaboration so fast. It was already trending that you collaborate online, or with all the advantages, but because of the pandemic, this accelerated the online collaboration even faster. You can just imagine the users of Zoom suddenly, just show up after the pandemic. Everybody start using Zoom or Google Meet. That includes video communications. Yeah. Cloud computing means offloading all your organization computational needs online. That means include the infrastructure itself, the computers, the platform to run your application all online, all the hardware is online. Yeah. You don't have to worry about creating your own data center. Creating your own data center means you have to have a building. You have to cool down the building to house your servers. You have to have people looking after that, provide security for that, perform all the necessary backup, redundancy, and all these things. It's all cost so much money and headache to most companies. So companies now turn to cloud computing. Right, cloud computing, everything is on the cloud, and all they need to provide their employees are the end devices, their computers. If you want to do some computation, use the web app. Web app is situated in the cloud, right? And usually cloud provide distributed storage, thereby providing safety lah. All the backup is all duplicated and all these things lah. Yeah. There's a lot of benefits for cloud computing, and cloud computing is going up and up and up, right? All right, so okay, so I talked about this already: online collaboration, video communication, and video conferencing. Yeah, okay, all the benefits that you don't have to go there. But one thing about online communication or collaboration for video communication is the time zone. That's one thing. Everybody must agree to a particular date and time, so there will be spontaneous. But because of time zone, some of your colleagues might be sleeping, so you cannot really arrange a really nice time for you to have a meeting if you are a global company. Okay, people in Japan might be sleeping, and US daytime want to have a meeting, and very difficult, right? Right, so talk about cloud computing earlier. Right, so we have public clouds, private clouds, hybrid clouds, and custom clouds. So you can see that there are many different clouds. One of the services, one of the provider that is very good at this, and they have lots of offerings, Amazon AWS. You can go online and type Amazon AWS, and you can see their offering. They provide the infrastructure, they provide the storage, they provide the computation, and all sort of services. Okay, and they're all very elastic. That means you only pay for what you use, right? And this is good for a lot of companies. Technology trends in our home is smart home technology. We talk about IoT and Internet of Things, where all your things will be connected online. Smart home technology like smart lock, smart lighting, smart aircon, smart, all this are becoming smarter. That means you have they are edge computing. You'll provide some kind of electronics, okay, that are able to connect to the cloud, yeah, to collect sensor data, and in the cloud, those sensor data will be processed and you will able to see information based on the collected sensor data, right? Power line networking. Okay, sometimes you want your house is a little bit big, maybe, and your walls are a bit thick, so Wi-Fi, although you like Wi-Fi cannot penetrate. Sometimes even when you go from one room to another room, the Wi-Fi signal go down. So power line networking is one option where you're using the built-in electrical wiring system to transfer your data. All you need to do is buy the power line adapter, plug in one part of the building where it's connected to, we can connect it to your internet provider modem, and then you plug another adapter in another place of the house where you want to get the connectivity, and the network connectivity will run through your electrical wiring in your home. Okay, so you can find this very cheap nowadays, maybe 100 plus, 200, even in Karamusing you can find this. Just tell them you want a power line adapter. Sometimes they normally sell it in a pair, so at least you have one plug in there near your modem, another plug maybe upstairs, and then you can plug Wi-Fi access point to the upstairs power line adapter, for example, right? So this technology is now quite mature. Now a lot of people have this option now. You can use the power line networking. Okay. Wireless broadband. I think in Dortmund, they have P1, right? P1 is wireless broadband, which means it's like a Wi-Fi, but the range is about a few kilometers, right? This is again the ISP, small ISP. They want to provide internet connectivity. Okay, so one thing about this good is that it's unlimited quota if you go for this wireless broadband compared to the cellular access. All right, that's it for this chapter. Any question, you guys?
So far, no.
No question for me.
No one. Okay. Sorry to take a little bit more time than what we're supposed to. So, but please, as your homework, do your tutorial 1. Yeah. Okay. So, and the tutorial 1, get all ready for our discussion in next week. Next week, definitely we'll get the 1 hour tutorial to discuss. All right. So thank you very much for today, Noel, Kelvin, and Farah. So I'll see you guys on Friday for our practical. Okay. To prepare for that, please download and install the packet tracer software. We'll be using that. Okay.
Okay, sir.
Sir, can I
Yeah.
have your number?
Sure. Who's the class rep?
Okay. Me.
It's Noel.
Noel, Noel, maybe you can create the BAIT 2004 WhatsApp group lah.
Oh, okay.
Right. So, and if you need something urgent to discuss, then you can just use it.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Okay. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you, sir.
All right.
Okay,
I'll
sir.
see you
Thank you.
on Friday.